Gentlemen, and Braylon, I'll start with you. How do you evaluate Jared Goff in a year with all these injuries? Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, Quintez Cephas, Terrell Williams, everybody double and triple team, and TJ Hawkinson. How do you evaluate this player?
If he has time, when he drops back to make the throws, you just got to look at things that he can control. You start with the center back quarterback exchange. That basically means him taking the ball from the center. That's the center back quarterback exchange. He's fumbled 5 of those and he's lost 4 of those. He's fumbled 5 of those and he's lost 4 of those. That's something that's on him. When you get into situations when the line is providing you protection and you make the wrong read, when you're staring down a receiver in Quintez Cephas on the sideline who isn't where you're supposed to go on that 4th down route, and you got a running back right in front of you, right there to get the 4 yards. He's right in your eyes. He's staring at you right in your eyes, and you don't throw him the ball. You don't get it to him. That's on him. When he's making the wrong reads, that's on him. When he's not getting the ball to where it should be, that's on him. Now, if the line and the protection are breaking down and he's rushing like, or he's running like with a chicken with his head cut off, or he's running for his life, he's fearing for his life, then that's not on him. Like if guys aren't getting open because they aren't number 1 receivers in the NFL, because they aren't number 2 receivers in the NFL, guys aren't getting open, that takes time. You get sacked, that's not on him. You assess the situation by the things that he can control. That's making the right read when he has protection. That's getting the ball there. That's ensuring the center back quarter exchange, the center quarterback exchange. Those are the things you can assess. And he hasn't done any of those well. And you assess it moving the chains and getting 3rd downs. You got to find a way to get 3rd downs, and he can't do that either.
Stan?
Yeah, Jared Goff is not Tom Brady, who can make average receivers look good.
Ryan Fitzpatrick's.
There you go. And let's be fair to him. He doesn't have weapons to throw to. Mm-mm. If you think about, Galladay's the number 1 receiver at the Giants, but Kadarius Toney, he's a tough number 2 receiver. Yeah. If you look at Allen Robinson, who's the number 1 receiver for Chicago Bears, Darnell Mooney's a tough number 2 receiver.
Yes, he is.
So the Lions have to be careful. Don't go drafting a receiver in the 1st round next year because we have too many problems. But can you find a number 2 later in the draft that can, for a short period of time, become our number 1? So there's some guys out there that are not truly number 1 receivers, but that could be a true stopgap until we have time to bring in a top number 1 receiver, somebody who can always make big boy catches and keep the passing game going.
Because anytime, we say there's nobody on this team that can play. This is a lost season. This is not a lost season. Right. I mean, you have to try to find somebody that can play for you next year. You're not going to replace 47 of the 53 players on the roster next year. It's impossible. So you better develop who you have right now. You better develop who's out there on the field and make them better, because you're going to need most of these players for you next year.
Yeah, Lions have 23 days to make a trade. Trade deadlines in 23 days. 23 days. You can find people. You can find people that fit the image of what you want to do, or that fit the identity. Talk about identity. You talk about the culture. There are guys out there that fit this culture. There are guys out there that fit this identity. You just got to be willing to go look. And I'm sure they're doing that. I don't want to take advantage or take away from what they might be doing right now behind closed doors in their war room, getting ready. But you got to make a move, though. You got to do those things. And, you can always get a steal in the 4th and 5th round next year in the draft. But there's still things that you can do this year. Because you're right. It is not a steal. It is not a lost season. The season, they're building on something. They're building on respect. They're building on finishing games. They're building on playing tougher and limiting their mistakes. So this isn't a lost season, but you got to make a move in 23 days because you got to add to this team. You can't wait for April of 2022. You got to add some pieces before trade deadline.
Hey, Sean McVay's, we pretty much decided he's a pretty smart guy. He kind of knows offense really well. He knows quarterbacks really well. He got the Rams to the playoffs with Jared Goff as a number 1 overall pick, and the guy did pretty well. Won 6 playoff games, lost a close Super Bowl. He doesn't make the throws. We've already seen it in the first 5 weeks here. He doesn't make the throws, and Braylon took the words out of my mouth. He locks in on a guy. He doesn't look at 2nd and 3rd receivers. He fumbles an awful lot, and we laugh. Everyone says his hands are small. They are. That's why he fumbles so much. So who he has to throw to, he's got a bunch of decent guys. They're all number 3s here. Detroit's got a bunch of number 3 wide receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown might come into a number 2 slot receiver eventually. Khalif Raymond, he was a find. He was a special teams guy, but he's a hustler. He's out there. Quintez Cephas was having a heck of a year till he broke his collarbone. And then we don't know with Terrell Williams. He got knocked out in the first game, and you know where we're at. But this guy, he just doesn't seem like he's right. And maybe he'd be better if he was on a different team. But on this team, I just don't see him improving. I really don't. If you gave me a choice of Ryan Fitzpatrick or him, I would take Fitzy right now.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. With what we've seen so far, Jared Goff is not going to be the quarterback of this team when they make the playoffs.
No.
2, 3, 4 years from now, right?
I don't see it.
2023. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it either. The only problem with that is Malik Willis the guy? I mean, is he? Because that is the only player, in my opinion, not that I'm some NFL scout, but that remotely looks like he can be an NFL caliber franchise leading quarterback in this draft.
He's ranked 15th in the country right now. Like a lot of mock draft boards have come out. You know, the highest he is 12. You know, man, he's usually around 12 to 15, somewhere in that three gap range. No, he's not the guy. Like if he's at 15 now, like you're
you can move up that board.
You can, but usually if you're a bad team, like if you're a team like the Detroit Lions, and when I say bad team, I'm talking about record-wise, which means they will have a chance to draft high. You want that guy at quarterback to be locked into somewhere in them 1 through 5 mock draft spots, like early in the season, and then when they move up is bowl games, training for the combine, pro day. But you want them already at 5, like somewhere between 1 and 5 now, and then they move up, in the bowl games, etc. 15 that's not where you want. Like you can't make a pick on Malik. It would have
at 2.
You can't. No, hell no.
No, he's not at that value. But this is where Brad Holmes has to earn his money. You made a comment, I believe it was yesterday, is if you don't bring in somebody like a Golden Tate, or Golden Tate as a stop, because you still have to get through, to your point, Ryan, we still have what, 8 or 9 games to play.
12.
12 games still to play, and we need to find a way to win these games. And Golden Tate, or someone of that caliber, is someone you can bring in to help you do that. I don't quite know what they're going to do in the draft next year. Just looking out, they have to be very careful about this next first-round pick. They have to be very careful about that.
I don't disagree with you at all, Stan, because you're going to have a definitely a top 5 pick, right? But most likely a number 2 pick, with that number 1 pick coming in Jacksonville, who has a quarterback. So if they take the defensive end from Oregon, that leaves the safety from Notre Dame for you that you could. I mean, is that an Ed Reed type situation?
Well, here's the thing that I'd be interested in finding out is how much does Brad Holmes will allow, or how much of the Detroit Lions staff allow Dan Campbell to have input in here. Because if you package that pick to get some picks later on and for future years, the clock is still running on Dan Campbell's tenure. Like, wait a minute, you're pushing draft picks back that I might not be able to coach. So please make sure you give me the players here that I can win sooner than later.
Awesome point, because that's why Justin Herbert or Tua Tagovailoa is not here, because Matt Patricia said, no, I need somebody that can help me now. Bob Quinn says, no, I need somebody to help me now.
100%.
So that's what happened. Stan, who's better than you? Nobody.
No.
That's
Speaking of that, what's going on with Michigan this week, man?
Michigan's got to bye. Give me a thought on Michigan before we get out of here, Stan.
Well, I've always been concerned on how Jim Harbaugh has managed the bye week. Coming out of a bye, they haven't always played
2 and
well.
3.
It always, if you manage the bye week well, it's really coming at a really good time. You can get some guys healed up. But you have to wonder, do I give them too much rest off, or do I work them too hard and they're a little bit fatigued coming out of the bye? So the smart coaches know how to figure this out. He's got some new set of eyes and set of ears on his coaching staff that can help him through that. So coming out of this bye is really important, because they can't go to Northwestern looking and preparing for Michigan State.
That was as impressive a win as I've seen under Harbaugh.
That was an absolute character win, because they could have folded their tent and they did not.
Yep.
That's exactly what Cade McNamara said after the game when he got interviewed. He said a couple years ago when we were on this team, we don't win these games.
Right.
He said now we're winning these games. Like that gave me goosebumps. I said the fact that he can acknowledge that, he can see that, but then he can feel what they are now. That was a heck of a soundbite.
Stan Edwards, he joins us every Tuesday. Look for him every week. And, of course, you can play this back if you want to hear what Stan had to say. 49 minutes of Stan Edwards today in all our glory. Stan, thanks so much, bud.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you got it. Speaking of goosebumps, if you watched the Monday Night Football game last night, Lamar Jackson was as impressed.
Ever.
That